You wake up every morning with a knot in your chest. Another day of trying to control what refuses to be controlled. Another 24 hours of forcing, pushing, worrying about things that haven't even happened yet. And somewhere deep inside, you're exhausted. Exhausted from pretending you have it all together. Exhausted from playing a role you never auditioned for. But what if I told you there's a reason you feel this way? What if everything, the pressure, the anxiety, the constant need to prove yourself, what if all of it exists because you forgot one simple truth? Alan Watts spent his life trying to remind us of it, and today, I'm going to show you what it is. By number 3 on this list, you'll understand why your suffering isn't as real as it feels, and that realization might just set you free. Here's what Alan Watts understood that most people never will. Life is a game. Not a cheap game where nothing matters, but a profound, sacred game where even your pain has purpose. Think about it. When you go to a movie, you know it's going to make you cry or terrify you, and you pay money for that experience. You want to feel those emotions because deep down, you know it's just a movie. You're safe. You can surrender to the experience. But somewhere along the way, you forgot that life works the same way. You forgot that you chose to be here. You chose to feel fear, loss, heartbreak, joy, all of it. Not because you're being punished, but because this is the experience you signed up for. But somewhere along the way, you forgot that life works the same way. You forgot that you chose to be here. You chose to feel fear, loss, heartbreak, joy, all of it. Not because you're being punished, but because this is the experience you signed up for. But what reminds us? Fear isn't the enemy. Resistance is. The moment you stop fighting what you feel and start accepting it as part of the performance, everything shifts. The pain doesn't disappear, but it stops controlling you. You're not here to win at life. There's no trophy at the end. You're here to experience it fully. The light and the dark, the chaos and the calm. And the faster you remember that, the faster you stop suffering. If you thought that was intense, wait until you hear what comes next. Because once you understand life as a game, the real question becomes, why are you still playing it like you're losing? You've been trained since childhood to believe that control equals safety. That if you just work hard enough, plan carefully enough, worry thoroughly enough, you can prevent disaster from striking. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You are never in control. Not of other people, not of circumstances, not even of your own thoughts half the time. In your desperate attempt to control everything is precisely what's making you miserable. Alan Watts called this the infinite onion of worry. You solve one problem and another appears. You peel back one layer of anxiety and there's another waiting underneath. You worry about money, then health, then relationships, then what people think of you. And even when everything is objectively fine, you can't relax because your mind has been conditioned to search for the next threat. This is what happens when you live in resistance to life. When you treat existence like a war zone instead of a stage. You tense up. You armor yourself emotionally. You turn into a version of yourself that's constantly braced for impact. Western culture has made this worse. We worship productivity, glorify hustle, and treat rest like a character flaw. We've been taught that if you're not constantly striving, improving, optimizing, then you're falling behind. But all this does is create a society of anxious, exhausted people who've forgotten how to simply be. The truth is, life doesn't need to be managed. It needs to be lived. Not controlled, but experienced. Not conquered, but danced with. And this is where Watts introduces something radical. A principle that most people reject at first because it sounds too simple, too passive, too risky. But once you understand it, it changes everything. What I'm about to share with you at number 3 is the key that unlocks the entire game. This is the concept that made Alan Watts famous. The idea that challenges everything you've been taught about effort, struggle, and success. Wu Wei. It's an ancient Taoist principle that translates to effortless action or non-doing. And before you think it means being lazy or passive, let me be clear, Wu Wei is one of the most powerful forces you can tap into. Wu Wei means acting in harmony with life instead of against it. It means learning to flow like water instead of fighting like a warrior. Think of a surfer who doesn't try to dominate the ocean, but reads the waves and moves with them. That's Wu Wei. Alan Watts explained it like this. Imagine you're in a river. You can either exhaust yourself swimming against the current, or you can let the river carry you while you navigate intelligently. Most people spend their entire lives doing the former, wondering why they're always tired. Here's what Wu Wei looks like in practice. It's recognizing when you're forcing a relationship that isn't meant to be and having the courage to let go. It's understanding that not every problem needs to be solved immediately. Some need time to resolve themselves. It's choosing quality over quantity, depth over speed, being overdoing. Wu Wei doesn't mean you stop caring or stop trying. It means you stop exhausting yourself by pushing against doors that were never meant to open. It means you trust that life has its own intelligence, its own timing, and your job isn't to control it. It's to participate in it consciously. This is where true power lives, not in domination, but in alignment, not in force, but in flow. If you're starting to see how deeply you've been conditioned to resist life, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. We're going much deeper into these ideas, and you don't want to miss what comes next. Now, here's where most people get stuck. They understand the concept intellectually, but they can't actually apply it. Because there's one more trap you need to avoid, one that keeps you locked in the game, even when you think you figured it out. Fear isn't a problem. Resisting fear is. Alan Watts understood something profound. Fear is like the heat from a flame. You don't choose to feel it. It's automatic, instinctive. But unlike heat, which we accept as natural, we've been taught to fight fear, to suppress it, to see it as a weakness. But every time you resist an emotion, you give it more power. Repressed fear becomes chronic anxiety. Suppressed sadness becomes depression. Ignored anger becomes rage. The emotions don't disappear, they metastasize. Watts taught that true courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to feel fear without letting it control you. He called this metaphysical courage, the ability to look pain in the eye and keep walking. Not because you're numb to it, but because you know it's part of the performance. The samurai studied Zen to achieve total presence, where even death held no power, finding peace by crossing through hell without resistance. This doesn't mean you become emotionless. It means you stop being afraid of your own feelings. You stop treating fear like an enemy and start seeing it for what it is. Energy moving through you, a natural response to the unknown. When you accept fear instead of fighting it, something miraculous happens. The fear doesn't vanish, but it transforms. It becomes fuel instead of a prison. And this brings us to the final piece, the moment when everything clicks. When you finally understand, not just intellectually, but in your bones, that you're not a victim of life. You're a player in it. Life will never stop challenging you. The scenes of loss, fear, joy, and chaos will keep unfolding. That's not going to change. What changes is how you move through them. When you remember that life is a game, not a trivial game, but a sacred one, you stop being a prisoner of circumstances. You start becoming a conscious participant. The pain still comes, but it doesn't define you. The fear appears, but it doesn't paralyze you. You begin to see every situation as temporary, every emotion as passing, every crisis as just another scene in the play. And here's the most liberating part. You don't need to win. There's no scoreboard. There's no judge evaluating your performance. You're here to experience, to feel, to be fully alive in this moment. Alan Watts said that life is like music. The point isn't to rush to the end of the song. It's to dance with every note along the way. So ask yourself, what area of your life are you forcing the most right now? Where are you swimming against the current? Where have you forgotten that you're playing a game? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if this message resonated with you, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next part of this journey. Because what we've covered today is just the beginning. The game doesn't end here. In fact, it's just getting started. Don't skip the next video. Remember, you're not here to control life. You're here to play it. And the moment you truly accept that, everything changes. See you in the next one.